Boarding off this week's SportsMax zone with cricket, the Darren Sammy coaching era began with a comfortable victory for the West Indies, who brushed aside the United Arab Emirates by 7 wickets on Sunday in Game 1 of their 3-match one-day international series in Sharjah. Brendan King led the Windies to victory, scoring his maiden one-day international century. The game was carried live on SportsMax, like the second one-day international will be, which comes up on Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. in Jamaica, 8:30 in the rest of the Caribbean. In a little while, we'll be going to a recap of the contest from Gerard Morrisili, who joins us on set. And Gerard, I guess a performance that you would fully well expect from the West Indies against a UAE team. Break down for me what you saw as the Darren Sammy coaching era began on Sunday.
Yeah, well, when I watch these games when West Indies play against the associate members, I look for more of an individualistic approach, look for more of what we've been trying to get better in those games rather than the result, because to me the result is the last thing that
it doesn't even count.
We expect that, yeah.
Well, you're assuming assuming that they are going to win, of course.
Yes, assuming that they're going to win. But I was very, very impressed with how they went about the run chase, especially. It was clear to me that under Darren Sammy there's a plan, especially with the bowlers. I found that the innings, well, when we went out to bowl, it was clear that they were going to attack the stumps from early, the fast bowlers. It's clear that there was a plan to let Shehope control the innings in terms of who he brings on when, because in the 7th over, in the 8th over is when Yannick Carrier came on, Kavim Hodge came on, and he brought him on because he realized that, yes, the Pacers were getting the wickets at that time, but then that was when the wicket was starting to slow up. So he brought on Kavim Hodge, tried to get the spinners on as early as possible, tried to get a wicket where he could. But in the batting too, I saw a lot more maturity in the batting, a lot more confidence from the West Indian batsmen. It was as if they knew what they were able to do against teams like UAE, and they went out there and they did just that. So I was very impressed with how Brendan King batted especially, but I must say that I was particularly really good, really impressed with Shamar Brooks as well, because Shamar, he played that supportive role really well. Yeah. He didn't try to overbat, he didn't try to match up to Brendan King. He was very supportive and ensured that we were able to get to that 202 target.
Yeah, there you go, the UAE 202 from 47.1 overs. Ali getting 58, the teenager on his debut, 3 for 34 for Keema Paul, back in the West Indies team. Really good to see him doing well. And then the West Indies 206 for 3, 35.2 overs. Brendan King getting 112. Shamar Brooks 44. Johnson Charles, who was the first to go, he got 24 from 19. 1 for 22, the best figures for the UAE. The West Indies 1-0 up in this series. You spoke about the West Indies chase and the maturity that would have been shown and the confidence that they showed. Of course, quite possibly a lot of that may come down to the fact that they were playing an inferior opposition. But you still have to deal with what is in front of you. And it seemed pretty tough conditions, quite hot, quite humid, and also uneven bounce, some amount of turn. But the West Indies batsmen, especially Brendan King, seemed to handle it very well.
Yeah, they were very impressive. And of course, Shehope didn't have to come in and back, because you saw he came in later and he struck 2 sixes back to back and won the game. But I found that their shot selection was nothing that we are accustomed seeing from a West Indies lineup. They were aggressive only when they needed to be.
But did you like that approach?
I did. They looked as if they were one of the top 6 teams, top 8 teams that should have already been qualified for the World Cup.
Yeah.
But let me ask you though, wouldn't you expect them to look like that against the UAE? This is an associate nation. Anything but would have you concerned going into the World Cup qualifying tournament.
Yeah, but we still need to realize and recognize that this is the West Indies that we're talking about.
Yeah.
When we've seen the West Indies collapse against teams that are associate members, such as Ireland. Ireland beat us in a 3-match ODI series earlier this year, using the T20 approach in a 50-over game. So I've seen some confidence, some improvement where that is concerned. They changed their game. They knew that they were, although this was against the UAE, we need to show the maturity that we have as a full member squad playing against them and teach them a thing or two.
Yeah, and as you mentioned the word maturity, I think about Shea Hope, his first stint as captain, and making that decision, and it's a big decision when you're a leader, to be selfless is one of the key attributes, right? So Shea Hope took it upon himself to drop himself to number 4, give Brandon King the opportunity to open. What did you make of that decision? And of course, it was a big decision to make, and I'm saying that again because as a leader and somebody who's an opener, to make that decision, put your own self lower down in the order. It worked out for Brandon King. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I thought it was a great decision. I always felt that Brandon King should have been opening the West Indies batting in all formats of the game. Brandon is one of the best technically correct batsmen that we have in the Caribbean. But Shea, I mean, come on. If Shea had opened with Brandon King, the game would have been over at probably 5 overs already before it would actually finish. But Shea, because we saw 2 sixes as soon as he came in, got the game over with. That for Shea to, I think he just wanted to gauge alongside Sammy what type of batting order he will be working with come the qualifiers.
Yeah, and I suspect that we're going to be discussing this quite a lot, where Shea Hope should bat in this 50-over team. We've seen him open with success. We've seen him bat in that number 4, number 5 position with some amount of success as well. Where do you think is the ideal batting position for Shea Hope?
I more favor Shea opening, but let's be realistic. I believe that Shea Hope is the type of batsman who, as long as he's in the top 5 in this format of the game, he's going to deliver. But I much prefer seeing Shea at the top of the order, alongside Brandon King, alongside Johnson Charles, where we can have a steady ship at the top, where we don't have to be too worried about losing loose wickets at the top.
Yeah.
Because I believe that Shea is a very good batsman. He dominates in the 50 over. I wish it was also likewise in Test cricket, but this is Shea's favorite format. I don't think it matters where Shea bats, especially going into the World Cup qualifiers, where he's going to be playing more associate members. There's nothing that should stop him from scoring runs.
Yeah, I also want to ask your take on looking at the debutants. We had Kavem Hodge and, of course, Dominic Drakes getting the opportunity, and I felt they capitalized on it. One of the concerns I've always had where West Indies cricket is concerned is that we never had a crop of youngsters just waiting on the sidelines for their position. I felt as if the regular ones who would hit and, of course, get the wickets didn't show up, the team would fall apart. With these youngsters stepping up, 1, I want to know what you thought about them, and 2, if the future looks okay.
Yeah, Dominic bowled brilliantly. Let me start with him. To have a left-arm seam in the team was a little bit different for the West Indies, something that we needed, very refreshing for our bowling attack. It also worked because he was very economical, took 2 wickets for 29 runs in 9 overs. So Dominic was very economical, he bowled well, he fielded well, and I think that having that choice of a left arm seamer, which not many teams have, is a good thing for the West Indies. I'm sorry that he's not going to the World Cup qualifiers because I really was rooting for him to go there, but maybe if he can take more wickets and be more economical in this series, he will be further looked into for the future. Kavem Hodge, left-arm spinner, we have those options already. He's coming in for Akil Hussain, who was going to the World Cup qualifiers. But I thought Kavem was a little bit more nervous. The nerves showed a little bit more on him. He tried to he was too short at times. He was trying to bowl the ball too quickly, too flat, which I understand because when I listen to cricketers speak about the international format, they say that they have to adjust their game as spinners to try to be a little bit faster, a little bit less
predictable.
Yes, predictable. A little bit less. We're slipping me. But yeah. So Kavem was trying to make that adjustment because he's on a new international scene.
Yeah.
But it just didn't pay off for him on the day. But with a little bit more games, going on through the series, if he plays all 3 games, he will get better, he will improve, because he's an excellent cricketer.
Yeah, and quick word on Keema Paul, who is back in the West Indies setup. I've always had a lot of time for him. I think he is such a talented young player. His ability to bat, bowl, brilliant in the field as well. Great to see him back. What did you make of his return?
Yeah, Keema Paul really showed why he deserved to be in the West Indies team. It showed that he wanted to be there. He bowled brilliantly from ball 1, came back in the depth. I was a little bit taken aback because I felt like he should have bowled a little bit earlier, that second spell a little bit earlier, because we were looking for the kill. He came on 170 for 7, and he got the 2 wickets that we needed to wrap up the innings. But Keema Paul was really good. He's improved a lot in his bowling in particularly, because it was starting to fade away before he got dropped from the team. But it's obvious that he went back. He did a lot of work. He looked back at why he was where he fell down in his bowling department, and he worked on it. He was very economical again. I thought that he pitched the ball in the right areas. Of course, yes, we're playing against the UAE, but we have to take these little things into consideration when talking about this team. Because no matter who we play, there's always a chance that we can get it wrong on the day. So to see things go that good for the West Indies on the day from different players and not just that one particular standout player, it's pretty good. And I'm very excited to see how things go under Darren Sammy, because they seem to be looking up already.
Yeah, well, I just want to caution that it's just the United Arab Emirates, and we're not even talking about one of the very best of the associate nations. Tougher challenges to come at the World Cup qualifying tournament, like Ireland, Zimbabwe, Sri Lanka, and we'll see how the West Indies do against those teams. Well, they'll be back in action tomorrow, the Caribbean side, hoping to seal this series against the UAE. You can catch the action live on SportsMax and SportsMax Cricket starting at 8:30 a.m. in the Eastern Caribbean. That's 7:30 in Jamaica. More to come on the SportsMax Zone.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.